The desert wind howled across the Nevada plains as Dr. Elena Martinez climbed the metal stairs to the observation deck. It was 3:47 a.m., and the global communications array stretched before her like a field of giant metal flowers. Each dish pointed toward different corners of the universe. She had been the lead scientist here for 8 years, listening to the endless whispers of space, hoping to catch something that would change everything. Tonight, she would get her wish. "Dr. Martinez, you need to see this right now," called Tom. Bradley, her night shift operator. His voice carried an edge she had never heard before. Tom was calm, steady, the kind of man who stayed cool even when equipment failed during important observations. But now his hands shook as he pointed to the main screen. Elena hurried to the control room, her coffee mug forgotten on the deck railing. The massive display showed wave patterns unlike anything in their database. The signal was strong, impossibly strong, and it was coming from the direction of the Vega system. "How long has this been coming in?" she asked, settling into her chair. "Started about 20 minutes ago. At first I thought it was interference from a satellite, but look at this structure." Tom highlighted sections of the transmission. "This isn't random noise, there's a pattern here, something deliberate." Elena studied the data streaming across multiple monitors. Her heart began to race. After decades of searching, after countless false alarms and dead ends, this looked like the real thing. But something felt wrong. The signal was too strong, too clear, as if whoever sent it wanted to be heard. "Run it through the translation protocols," she ordered, "and call the team, all of them." Within an hour, the control room buzzed with activity. Dr. James Cooper, their linguistics expert, bent over his computer while engineer Lisa Park worked on cleaning up the signal. Others gathered around workstations, their faces lit by the glow of screens showing humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. "I'm getting structure," Cooper announced. "Mathematical concepts, star charts, and something else. Something big." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the desert night. "What kind of something?" Cooper's face went pale. "Technical specifications, weapon designs, and coordinates. Lots of coordinates." The room fell silent except for the hum of computers and the distant wind. Elena walked to Cooper's station and looked at his screen. Symbols filled the display, alien writing that their computers were slowly translating into human language. "This isn't a greeting," she whispered. "No," Cooper agreed. "It's military intelligence. And if I'm reading this right, we weren't supposed to intercept it." The translation took 6 hours. As the alien text became readable, the horror of their discovery grew clear. The signal came from a species calling themselves the Valdari Empire. They had been watching Earth for over 30 years, studying human civilization like scientists observing bacteria in a dish. Elena read the translated documents aloud to her team, her voice steady, despite the fear growing in her chest. "Target, designation, Sol 3, species classification, primitive carbon-based life forms, threat level, minimal, recommendation, complete sterilization of planetary surface before resource extraction." Tom dropped his coffee mug. It shattered on the floor, but nobody moved to clean it up. "There's more," Cooper said quietly. "Fleet deployment orders, 12 heavy cruisers, departure date 6 months ago. Estimated arrival time at Earth, 18 months from now." Lisa Park stood up slowly. "They're coming here. They're coming to kill us all." Elena continued reading. "The Valdari discussed humanity with the same cold interest humans might show when planning to clear out a wasp nest. They debated whether to study human specimens before extermination, or simply burn the entire planet from orbit and move on to harvesting Earth's metals and water. "Listen to this," Elena said, her voice getting stronger. "Commander's log, Valdari, 2nd Fleet. The mammals of Sol 3 show basic tool usage and have achieved primitive spaceflight. However, their technology remains centuries behind ours. They pose no threat to Imperial forces. Standard extermination protocols will be sufficient." Cooper looked up from his screen. "They think we're helpless. They think we're animals," Tom added, anger creeping into his voice. Elena kept reading. The Valdari intelligence reports painted a picture of humanity that was both accurate and completely wrong. Yes, humans were younger on the galactic stage. Yes, their technology was primitive compared to an empire that had conquered dozens of worlds. But the aliens had missed something crucial in their decades of observation. They had watched human cities and counted human weapons. They had analyzed human governments and calculated human resources. But they had never seen humanity truly threatened. They had never seen what humans became when faced with extinction. Alert the Global Defense Council, Elena ordered. Emergency protocols highest priority and get me Admiral Kane on the secure line. As her team scrambled to make contact with Earth's military leadership, Elena stared at the translation still scrolling across her screen. The Valdari had made a simple mistake, the kind that had doomed countless civilizations throughout history. They had confused being peaceful with being weak. Admiral Marcus Kane arrived at the facility before dawn, his helicopter landing in a whirlwind of dust and noise. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars, but his face showed sharp intelligence as Elena briefed him on their discovery. So they've been watching us for 30 years, he said, studying the alien star charts. Learning our weaknesses, planning their attack. Yes, sir. But they made an error. This transmission was meant for their home fleet, not for us. We intercepted their internal military communications. Kane smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. So we know they're coming, we know how many ships, and we know what they think of us. We also know their technology, Lisa added. The signal contains technical specifications, weapon designs, shield frequencies. They sent us a blueprint of their own military systems. Kane studied the translated documents for a long time. When he looked up, his eyes held something that Elena had never seen before, not fear but anticipation. Dr. Martinez, how long do we have? 12 months, maybe 14 if we're lucky. And they think we're helpless animals. Yes, sir. Kane stood up, his decision made. Then we're going to teach them something they've never learned in all their years of conquest. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten the human race. Elena felt something shift in the room, a change in the air like the moment before a storm breaks. The Valdari had been watching humanity for decades, but they had never seen humans prepare for war. They had never witnessed the transformation that occurred when peaceful people realized their children faced extinction. What do you need from us? She asked. Everything. Every detail of their technology, every weakness in their systems, every piece of intelligence in that transmission. We have 12 months to prepare for a war that will determine whether humanity survives or joins the list of civilizations the Valdari have wiped out. Kane paused at the door. Doctor, when the Valdari arrive, they're expecting to find a primitive world full of helpless animals. Instead, they're going to find something they've never encountered in all their years of conquest. What's that, sir? An angry human race that's had a year to prepare for their arrival. As the sun rose over the Nevada desert, Elena looked out at the communication array that had changed everything. The dishes still pointed toward the stars, but now they carried a different purpose. They were no longer just listening to the universe. They were preparing to send a message of their own. 3 weeks after the discovery, the world had changed completely. What started as a secret known only to a few scientists had become humanity's greatest mobilization effort in history. In underground bunkers and hidden facilities across every continent, the human race was waking up to what it truly meant to survive. Dr. James Cooper stood in the newly built research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, staring at alien technology that should have been impossible to understand. But the Valdari had made their first critical mistake when they sent detailed technical specifications in their intercepted message. Now, human scientists were using the aliens' own blueprints against them. The shield generator is almost ready. For testing, announced Dr. Sarah Kim, Cooper's lead engineer. She pointed to a device that looked like a metal flower with crystalline petals. If we're reading their specifications correctly, this should create an energy barrier strong enough to stop their plasma weapons. Cooper nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. For 3 weeks, teams of scientists had worked day and night to decode Valdari technology. What they found was both encouraging and terrifying. The aliens were advanced, but their technology followed predictable patterns. They had grown comfortable with centuries of easy victories against weaker civilizations. "Have you seen the weapons lab?" Sarah asked. Cooper followed her down a corridor lined with blast doors. Behind each door, human engineers worked on projects that would have been science fiction a month ago. In one room, Lisa Park supervised the construction of energy cannons based on Valdari designs. In another, teams built armor that could deflect alien weapons. But the most important work was happening in the deepest level of the facility, where Admiral Kane had established the Strategic Planning Center. The command room buzzed with activity. Officers from every nation worked side by side, sharing intelligence and coordinating the largest military buildup in human history. At the center of it all stood Admiral Kane, studying holographic displays that showed Earth's new defenses taking shape. "Admiral, the orbital platforms are ahead of schedule," reported Colonel Sarah Blake, Kane's deputy commander. "We'll have 12 battle stations in position around Earth within 8 months. Kane smiled grimly. "And the fleet construction?" "Shipyards in orbit around Earth and Luna are working around the clock. Captain Alex Torres is overseeing the design process. His first prototype should be ready for testing next week." Kane walked to a large display showing the solar system. Red dots marked the approaching Valdari fleet, still months away but closing the distance steadily. Blue dots showed humanity's growing defenses spreading throughout Earth's orbital space. "What about the reconnaissance program?" Kane asked. "Already underway, sir. We've launched 12 stealth probes toward the approaching fleet. If our understanding of Valdari technology is correct, they won't detect the probes until it's too late." Kane nodded. The probes were one of humanity's first original innovations, combining alien stealth technology with human miniaturization techniques. Each probe was no larger than a basketball, but packed with sensors that could monitor the Valdari fleet from a safe distance. Meanwhile, in the weapons testing facility, engineer Lisa Park watched as technicians prepared to fire humanity's first energy weapon. The cannon looked crude compared to the sleek Valdari designs in their technical files, but human engineering had made crucial improvements. "The Valdari weapons are designed for overwhelming firepower," Lisa explained to her team, "but they assume their targets can't fight back effectively. We've modified the design for rapid firing and improved targeting systems." The test firing lit up the underground chamber with brilliant energy. The beam struck a target made of the same materials the Valdari used for ship armor and punched straight through it. "Perfect," Lisa said with satisfaction. "Their own armor won't protect them from their own weapons technology." Above ground, the world had transformed into a vast military factory. Cities that once produced cars now built spacecraft. Factories that made computers now assembled weapons systems. Every human on Earth understood that the next 12 months would determine whether their species survived. Captain Alex Torres stood in the orbital shipyard above Earth, watching as the first human warship took shape. It was not a beautiful vessel like the exploration ships humanity had dreamed of building. This was a weapon, designed with one purpose: to kill aliens who came to kill humans. "She looks angry," commented Commander David Park, Torres's chief. Engineer Torres nodded. The ship had sharp angles and weapon ports that gave it a predatory appearance. Human designers had combined alien technology with human aesthetics, creating something that looked dangerous even while floating silently in space. "The Valdari ships are built for intimidation," Torres explained. "Large, impressive, designed to make primitive species surrender without fighting. Our ships are built for killing. There's a difference. The ship's main cannon was based on Valdari plasma technology, but human engineers had made it more powerful and accurate. The armor used alien defensive systems, but added human innovations that the Valdari had never considered. Most importantly, the ship was designed to be unpredictable in combat, something the rigid Valdari military doctrine was not prepared to handle." Back at the communications facility in Nevada, Dr. Elena Martinez worked with a different kind of weapon: information. The intercepted Valdari transmissions continued to provide intelligence about alien military tactics, technology, and most importantly, their psychology. "They've never faced serious resistance," Elena reported during the daily briefing with Admiral Kane. Every species they've encountered either surrendered immediately or was too primitive to mount an effective defense. Kane leaned forward. What does that tell us about their weaknesses? Their military tactics are standardized, almost ritualistic. They expect their enemies to react in predictable ways. When the Valdari arrive at a world, they broadcast surrender, demands wait for submission, then begin extermination procedures. It's been the same pattern for centuries. And they'll expect us to follow the same pattern? Yes, sir. They'll demand our surrender, expect us to panic and beg for mercy, then proceed with standard extermination protocols. They're not prepared for a species that fights back intelligently. Dr. Cooper joined the conversation from his research facility. We've made another breakthrough in understanding their command structure. The Valdari are extremely hierarchical. If we can disrupt their command ships, their entire fleet will struggle to adapt. Kane smiled. Perfect. Continue monitoring their transmissions. I want to know everything about how they think and fight. As weeks passed, the changes on Earth became more dramatic. Children learned about alien threats in school while their parents worked in weapons factories. Every television broadcast included updates on humanity's defensive preparations. The species that had spent decades dreaming of peaceful contact with alien life was rapidly becoming something much more dangerous. General Robert Hayes established training facilities where soldiers learned to fight in zero gravity and use alien weapons technology. The training was harsh, designed to prepare humans for combat against an enemy with superior technology and centuries of military experience. The Valdari are bigger and stronger than humans, Hayes told his trainees. Their weapons are more advanced, and their ships are more powerful. But they've never fought humans before. They don't know about human creativity, human stubbornness, or human fury when our families are threatened. The soldiers trained with captured alien equipment, learning to turn Valdari technology against its creators. They practiced boarding actions on mock-ups of alien ships, using human tactics adapted for alien environments. Meanwhile, scientists worked on projects that would have seemed impossible before the alien threat emerged. Dr. Kim's team perfected personal shield generators that could protect individual soldiers. Lisa Park developed portable weapons that could penetrate Valdari armor. Cooper's linguistics team learned to speak alien languages, preparing for interrogations and psychological warfare. But perhaps the most important development was happening in humanity's collective psychology. The species that had reached for the stars with hope and curiosity was discovering something darker within themselves. The same drive that had led humans to explore and create was now focused on a single goal, making sure that any alien species that threatened human existence would regret that decision. Admiral Kane stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, looking down at Earth's blue surface. 12 months ago, it had been a peaceful world where humanity's greatest conflicts were economic and political disputes. Now it was becoming something the galaxy had never seen. An entire planet preparing for war. "Sir, the first probe has reached the Valdari fleet," reported Colonel Blake. Kane turned to the communication console. "What do we see?" The images appeared on screen. Massive alien ships moving in perfect formation through space. They were beautiful, in their own way, but Kane saw them as 12 threats to human survival. "They're not even trying to hide," he observed. "They think we can't detect them. Should we maintain surveillance?" Kane nodded. "Keep watching them. I want to know everything about their capabilities before they arrive." "And Colonel?" "Yes, sir. Make sure our people you." 8 months had passed since the alien signal changed everything. Earth no longer looked the same from space. Where once there had been peaceful cities and quiet farmlands, now massive construction projects stretched across every continent. Humanity was reshaping their entire world into a fortress. Captain Alex Torres floated in the command center of humanity's newest orbital shipyard, watching the final assembly of their 10th warship. The vessel was sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons that combined alien technology with human engineering. But what made Torres smile was not the ship's firepower. It was the fact that they had built 10 ships in 8 months, something the Valdari intelligence report said was impossible for a primitive species. Captain, we're receiving data from Probe 7, announced Lieutenant Mark Chen from the communications station. The probe had been shadowing the Valdari fleet for 3 months, sending back detailed information about alien ship movements and tactical formations. Torres moved to the main display where images of the approaching alien fleet filled the screen. 12 massive warships moved through space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the confidence of a species that had never lost a battle. Any changes in their approach? Torres asked. No, sir. Same formation, same speed. They're not even running active scans. They have no idea we're watching them. Torres nodded grimly. The Valdari arrogance was becoming their weakness. After centuries of easy victories, they had grown careless. They approached Earth like farmers coming to clear a field, not warriors preparing for battle. Down on Earth's surface, the transformation was even more dramatic. Dr. Elena Martinez stood on the observation platform of the Global Defense Center in Colorado, looking out over a landscape that had been completely rebuilt for war. Factories that once made civilian goods now produced weapons and armor. Research facilities that had studied peaceful sciences now focused on military technology. The shield generators are ready for final testing, reported Dr. Sarah Kim over the communication system. She was speaking from a facility in Australia, where teams had spent months perfecting planetary defense systems based on alien technology. Elena watched as the test began. High above Earth's atmosphere, a network of satellites activated simultaneously. Energy barriers appeared in space, creating a protective shell around the planet. The shields were invisible to the naked eye, but sensors showed them clearly. A defensive grid that could stop Valdari plasma weapons. Excellent work, Elena replied. How long can we maintain full shield coverage? 48 hours at maximum power, but we can run reduced coverage for weeks if necessary. The fusion reactors are more efficient than the Valdari designs we copied. Elena smiled. Human engineers had not simply copied alien technology, they had improved it. The same human creativity that had built cities and sent ships to the stars was now focused on survival, and the results were impressive. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Kane studied battle plans with his senior officers. The command center had grown into an underground city, connected by tunnels to similar facilities around the world. Every major nation had contributed their best military minds to the defense of Earth. General Hayes, status report on ground forces, Kane requested. General Robert Hayes stood beside a holographic display showing troop deployments around the globe. 2 million soldiers trained and equipped with alien-based weapons. Another million in reserve. Every major city has anti-aircraft batteries capable of engaging Valdari fighters. Kane nodded. The ground forces were important, but he knew the real battle would happen in space. If the Valdari fleet reached Earth's surface, the war was already lost. Colonel Blake, what about our orbital defenses? Colonel Sarah Blake highlighted points of light around Earth on the tactical display. 16 battle stations in stable orbit, each armed with plasma cannons and protected by shield generators. Captain Torres reports that our fleet will have 15 ships ready for combat when the Valdari arrive. Kane studied the numbers. 15 human ships against 12 Valdari cruisers. On paper, it seemed like a fair fight. But Kane knew that Valdari ships were larger and had centuries of proven combat experience. The battle would depend on human tactics and the element of surprise. Any word from our long-range reconnaissance? Kane asked. Probe 12 reached the outer system yesterday, Blake reported. The Valdari fleet is maintaining standard approach formation. They're broadcasting standard surrender demands on all frequencies, expecting us to receive and respond with submission. Kane allowed himself a small smile. The Valdari were still following their ancient playbook, treating Earth like every other world they had conquered. They expected humanity to panic, to beg for mercy, to make the conquest easy. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In the weapon testing facility beneath Nevada, engineer Lisa Park supervised the final trials of humanity's secret weapon. The device looked simple, a metal cylinder about the size of a telephone pole, but it represented months of work by Earth's best scientists. The stealth torpedo is ready for deployment, Lisa announced to the team. Based on Valdari sensor frequencies, it should be completely invisible to their detection systems. Dr. James Cooper examined the weapon's technical specifications. How many can we produce before they arrive? 50, maybe 60 if we push production. Each torpedo carries enough explosive power to cripple a Valdari cruiser. Cooper nodded approvingly. The torpedoes were pure human innovation, designed to exploit weaknesses in alien sensor technology. The Valdari had never faced stealth weapons because no species they conquered had been advanced enough to build them. Above them, in the communication center, Dr. Martinez continued monitoring alien transmissions. The intercepted messages revealed more about Valdari psychology and tactics with each passing day. They're planning a demonstration bombardment, she reported during the daily briefing. When they arrive, they intend to destroy one of our major cities as a warning, then demand complete surrender. Kane's face hardened. Which city? The transmissions suggest New York because of its symbolic importance and population density. They want to maximize psychological impact. Kane turned to his staff officers. Make sure our people know what's coming. When the Valdari arrive, they won't offer terms or negotiation. They plan to start killing humans immediately. The knowledge spread quickly through Earth's military command structure. Any lingering hopes for peaceful resolution disappeared. The Valdari had made their intentions clear: complete extermination of human civilization. This certainty had an unexpected effect on human morale. Instead of despair, it created a cold, focused anger that spread through every level of society. Factory workers built weapons faster. Scientists solved problems more quickly. Soldiers trained harder. Humanity was discovering what they became when faced with an enemy that offered no mercy. Captain Torres received the news while inspecting the newest additions to Earth's fleet. The ships were getting more sophisticated with each design. As human, engineers learned to combine alien technology with their own innovations. Commander Park, how are the crews adapting to the new systems? Torres asked his chief engineer. Better than expected, sir. The combination of alien sensors and human tactical computers gives us advantages the Valdari don't expect. We can see them coming from farther away and coordinate our attacks more precisely. Torres studied the tactical displays showing ship capabilities. Human vessels were smaller than Valdari cruisers, but they were faster and more maneuverable. More importantly, they were designed by humans who understood human psychology and tactics. The Valdari fight like they expect their enemies to be afraid, Torres observed. Their ships are built to intimidate. Their tactics are designed to break enemy morale. But they've never fought humans who are already angry. Meanwhile, teams of scientists worked on projects that pushed the boundaries of captured alien technology. Dr. Kim's group had developed personal armor that could protect soldiers in vacuum, allowing boarding actions against alien ships. Cooper's linguistics team had created translation programs that could intercept and decode Valdari communications in real time. But perhaps the most important work was happening in facilities that most humans never saw. Deep underground, teams worked on contingency plans for every possible outcome of the coming battle. If Earth's fleet was destroyed, ground forces would continue fighting. If the orbital defenses failed, cities would resist with guerrilla warfare. If everything else was lost, hidden bases would preserve human knowledge and culture for future generations. The Valdari had planned for a quick, easy conquest. They expected to arrive at a primitive world, broadcast surrender demands, and begin extermination procedures within days. Instead, they were approaching a fortress world where every human was prepared to fight for their species' survival. Admiral Kane stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, looking out at Earth's defensive preparations. Weapon platforms and shield generators dotted the space around humanity's home world. Warships patrolled in carefully planned formations. Communication arrays maintained contact with reconnaissance probes that watched the approaching enemy. Sir, latest intelligence from the probe network, Colonel Blake reported. The Valdari fleet will arrive in exactly the day humanity had been preparing for finally arrived. Admiral Kane stood in the command center of the orbital battle station, watching as 12 massive Valdari warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The alien vessels were enormous, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities. their hulls gleaming with the metallic sheen of advanced technology. "Contact in 6 hours," reported Colonel Blake, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." Kane nodded grimly. "Let's hear what they have to say." The alien transmission filled the command center with harsh mechanical sounds that the translation computers quickly converted to human language. The voice that emerged was cold, arrogant, completely without emotion. "Primitive inhabitants of Sol 3, you are commanded to surrender immediately. Your species has been selected for termination. Those who comply will be granted swift death. Those who resist will suffer prolonged agony before extermination. You have one of your planetary rotations to respond." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Kane looked around at his officers, seeing the same cold anger in their eyes that he felt in his own chest. "Well," he said quietly, "they certainly know how to make an impression." Captain Torres spoke from the bridge of the human flagship, his voice crackling over the communication system. "Admiral, the fleet is in position. All ships report ready for combat." Kane studied the tactical display showing the positions of both fleets. The Valdari maintained their traditional formation, 12 ships arranged in a pattern that had intimidated countless civilizations. The human fleet was scattered throughout the solar system, hidden behind asteroids and moons, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "Remember the plan," Kane broadcast to all human forces. "They expect us to meet them in open battle, ship to ship, following their rules. Instead, we're going to show them what happens when they fight humans." The Valdari fleet moved toward Earth, with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. Their ships were beautiful in their way, sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons that had destroyed dozens of worlds. But as they approached the inner solar system, something began to go wrong. The first sign of trouble came from the Valdari flagship. Commander Thex, the alien leader, watched his sensors with growing confusion. The primitive world ahead showed none of the panic and chaos his intelligence reports had predicted. Instead, the electromagnetic signatures suggested massive industrial activity and coordinated military movements. "Navigation, are you certain these are the correct coordinates?" Thex demanded. "Yes, Commander. This is Sol 3, the primitive world marked for cleansing." Thex studied the sensor readings more carefully. The planet below showed energy signatures that seemed almost familiar, as if the inhabitants were using technology similar to Valdari systems. "Impossible," he muttered. "These creatures are centuries away from such advancement." He was about to order a detailed scan when the first human attack began. Lisa Park's stealth torpedoes struck without warning. The weapons had been drifting in space for weeks, powered down and invisible to Valdari sensors. When they received the attack signal, they activated simultaneously and accelerated toward the alien fleet. The first torpedo struck the Valdari cruiser on the fleet's left flank. The explosion lit up space like a small star, and the massive alien ship lurched sideways, its shields failing under the unexpected assault. Before the Valdari could react, 11 more torpedoes found their targets. "Direct hits on 8 ships," reported Torres from the flagship. 3 Valdari cruisers are badly damaged. The others are recovering, but their formations are broken. Kane smiled grimly. The stealth attack had worked perfectly, but it was only the beginning. "All ships, execute attack pattern Alpha. Show them what human engineering can do." The human fleet emerged from hiding like wolves attacking a herd. 15 warships, each one smaller than the Valdari cruisers but faster and more maneuverable, swept in from multiple directions. The aliens, still reeling from the torpedo attack, tried to reform their battle lines. But Captain Torres had studied Valdari tactics for months. He knew exactly how they would respond to the attack, and he was ready for them. "Focus fire on the command ship," Torres ordered. "If we can take out their leadership, the rest of the fleet will struggle to coordinate." The human ships moved with precision that shocked the Valdari commanders. Instead of the chaotic, panicked resistance they expected from a primitive species, they faced coordinated attacks that seemed to anticipate their every move. "Commander, Thex watched in growing horror as his fleet was torn apart by ships that should have been no match for Valdari technology. The human vessels used weapons that looked like Valdari designs, but fired faster and hit harder. Their shields deflected, plasma blasts that should have destroyed them instantly. "How are they doing this?" Thex demanded of his tactical officer. "Unknown, Commander. Their technology appears to be based on our own designs, but with modifications we don't understand." The truth was simple, but devastating. Human engineers had taken Valdari technology and improved it with human creativity and ingenuity. The aliens had given humanity the tools to destroy them, and humans had made those tools better. The battle raged for 2 hours. The Valdari ships were powerful, but they were designed for intimidation and overwhelming firepower against helpless targets. The human fleet was built for war against a superior enemy, and every ship had been crafted with deadly efficiency. General Hayes watched the space battle from the command bunker beneath Colorado, coordinating the planetary defense systems. When 3 damaged Valdari ships broke away from the main battle and headed for Earth, he was ready. "Activate the orbital defense grid," he ordered. The space around Earth lit up with energy as 16 battle stations opened fire simultaneously. The approaching Valdari ships found themselves caught in a crossfire of plasma beams and missile salvos. Their shields, already weakened by the earlier battle, began to fail under the concentrated assault. "Sir, one of the alien ships is trying to reach the surface," reported Colonel Blake. Hayes studied the tactical display. The damaged Valdari cruiser was diving toward Earth's atmosphere, probably hoping to crash land and establish a ground base. It was exactly what human forces had been preparing for. "Let them come," Hayes said calmly. "We have a welcoming committee ready." The alien ship broke through Earth's atmosphere, trailing fire and smoke. Its crew, desperate and angry, managed to land in a remote area of Australia. Within minutes, they were transmitting distress signals to the rest of their fleet. But the humans had been listening. Dr. Martinez and her team had broken the Valdari communication codes months ago, and they knew exactly what the aliens were planning. "They're requesting immediate reinforcement," Martinez reported. "They want the main fleet to abandon the space battle and attack Earth directly." Admiral Kane smiled coldly. "Perfect. Signal all ships to fall back to Earth orbit. Make it look like we're retreating." The Valdari fleet, seeing the human ships withdraw, interpreted it as a sign of weakness. Commander Thex, his own ship badly damaged but still functional, ordered his remaining 8 cruisers to pursue the retreating humans. It was exactly what Kane had hoped for. As the Valdari fleet entered Earth's orbital space, they found themselves surrounded. The human ships that had appeared to retreat were actually taking up predetermined positions. The orbital defense stations powered up their weapons, and from the surface of Earth, thousands of ground-based weapon systems targeted the alien fleet. "Fire, everything," Kane ordered. The combined firepower of humanity's entire military struck the Valdari fleet simultaneously. Plasma beams, missile salvos, and energy weapons lit up the space around Earth like a deadly fireworks display. The alien ships, caught in the middle of the defensive grid, found themselves under attack from every direction. Commander Thex realized, too late, that he had led his fleet into a trap. The primitive species he had come to exterminate had somehow turned his own technology against him. His ships were being destroyed by weapons that used Valdari designs, but fired with human precision and coordination. "All ships retreat to hyperspace," he ordered desperately. But the humans had planned for this too. Commander David Park, leading a squadron of the fastest human ships, had been waiting for exactly this moment. His vessels moved to block the Valdari escape routes, engaging the alien ships in close combat. "No one leaves," Park broadcast to his pilots. "Not one alien ship returns to tell their empire where Earth is located." The final phase of the battle was swift and brutal. The Valdari ships, designed for conquering helpless civilizations, were no match for human warships built specifically to kill aliens. One by one, the mighty cruisers were destroyed or disabled. When the last Valdari ship fell silent, Kane looked around the command center at his officers. Earth's sky was filled with the wreckage of alien vessels, but not a single human ship had been lost. Casualties? He asked. Minimal, sir. The Valdari never had a chance to attack our cities or population centers. Kane nodded slowly. The battle was over, but he knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Valdari Empire was waiting for news of their fleet's easy victory. When that news never came, they would eventually send more ships to Eye. 3 months after the battle, Admiral Kane stood in the interrogation chamber deep beneath the Global Defense Center. Across from him sat Commander Thex, the highest-ranking Valdari survivor from the destroyed fleet. The alien was tall and lean, with silver skin and dark eyes that had once looked upon dozens of conquered worlds. Now those eyes showed something they had never held before: fear. Your empire will send more ships, Thex said in broken human language, his voice carrying the arrogance that came from centuries of easy victories. You cannot defeat the full might of the Valdari. Kane leaned back in his chair, studying the alien commander with calm interest. Tell me about your empire, Commander. How many worlds have you conquered? 47 systems bow before Valdari might, Thex replied with pride. Your primitive species will be the 48th. And how many of those worlds fought back? Thex paused, confusion crossing his features. None fought back. Resistance is pointless against superior technology. Kane smiled coldly. That's your problem, Commander. You've spent so long bullying helpless civilizations that you forgot what happens when you face someone who can fight back. Dr. Elena Martinez entered the chamber carrying a datapad filled with intelligence gathered from captured Valdari ships. The information had been a treasure trove, revealing not just military secrets, but the entire structure of the alien empire. Admiral, we've finished analyzing their star charts, she reported. The Valdari Empire controls 47 systems, but their military is spread thin. Most of their conquered worlds are kept in line by small garrison forces. Kane nodded, his plan taking shape. What about their home system? 3 heavily defended worlds, but the bulk of their fleet is scattered across the Empire, maintaining control. And sir, there's something else. The Valdari have never lost a fleet. Never. When our 12 ships don't return, their empire will want to know why. Commander Thex listened to this exchange with growing alarm. These humans were not simply defending themselves, they were planning something far more dangerous. Meanwhile, in the orbital shipyards above Earth, Captain Torres supervised the construction of humanity's most ambitious project yet. The new ships being built were not copies of Valdari designs, but purely human creations that incorporated the best of both technologies. The stealth cruiser is ready for trials, reported Commander Park. From the test vessel's bridge, the ship was sleek and deadly, designed to be invisible to Valdari sensors while carrying enough firepower to destroy anything it encountered. Torres smiled as he watched the ship maneuver through space. Human engineers had surpassed their alien teachers, creating vessels that were faster, more powerful, and far more dangerous than anything the Valdari had ever built. How many are ready for deployment? Torres asked. 6 stealth cruisers, 12 assault ships, and 20 fighter squadrons, all equipped with the new plasma weapons and shield systems. Torres nodded with satisfaction. The fleet was small compared to the massive Valdari armadas, but it was designed for a specific mission that had nothing to do with defense. In the Strategic Planning Center, General Hayes spread star charts across the holographic display, showing the locations of Valdari military bases and garrison worlds. The captured alien databases had provided humanity with detailed intelligence about their enemy's empire. The Valdari maintain control through fear, Hayes explained to his staff officers. Small forces on each conquered world, backed up by the threat of overwhelming retaliation if anyone rebels. But what happens when that fear is removed? Colonel E. Blake studied the tactical information. You're suggesting we attack their garrison worlds? Not attack, Hayes corrected. Liberate. Every world the Valdari conquered by force can be freed the same way. And when those worlds see that the mighty Valdari can be defeated, the entire empire will start to crumble. Kane entered the planning session, having finished his interrogation of the alien commander. Thex confirmed what we suspected. The Valdari, Empire is built on a foundation of terror and intimidation. They rule through fear because they've never faced serious resistance. What about their homeworlds? Asked General Hayes. Heavily defended but isolated. If we can cut off their outer territories, the core worlds will be surrounded by free systems that hate them. Kane smiled grimly. The Valdari made their empire by crushing hope. We're going to give that hope back. Dr. Cooper's linguistics team had been working around the clock to understand not just Valdari language, but the languages of the species they had conquered. The captured databases contained communication records from dozens of different civilizations, all silenced by Valdari conquest. We can communicate with the conquered populations, Cooper reported during the daily briefing. Most of the worlds were attacked recently enough that survivors still remember their freedom. Kane nodded approvingly. Perfect. We'll need to coordinate with local resistance movements when we begin operations. The plan that emerged from weeks of careful preparation was audacious in its scope. Humanity would not simply defend Earth and hope to be left alone. Instead, they would take the war directly to the Valdari Empire, using the aliens' own arrogance and rigid military doctrine against them. 2 months later, the first phase of humanity's counterattack began. 6 stealth cruisers invisible to Valdari sensors and armed with weapons that could destroy alien ships with a single shot slipped quietly through hyperspace toward their targets. Captain Torres commanded the lead ship, watching as they approached, the Valdari garrison world of Kepler 442b. The planet had been conquered only 5 years earlier, and intelligence suggested that a significant resistance movement still operated in the mountains. Take us in quietly, Torres ordered. I want to be in orbit before they know we're here. The human ships materialized in the planet's orbital space, like ghosts, their stealth systems keeping them hidden from Valdari sensors. Below them, the alien garrison consisted of 2 medium cruisers and a planetary defense grid that had seemed invincible to the conquered population. It lasted exactly 17 minutes. The stealth cruisers opened fire with precise, coordinated strikes that destroyed the Valdari ships before they could raise shields or return fire. The planetary defense systems, designed to prevent primitive species from escaping, were helpless against human weapons that struck from impossible angles. As the last Valdari installation exploded, Torres broadcast a message to the planet's surface, in the local language that Dr. Cooper's team had provided. People of Kepler 442b, this is Captain Torres of the human fleet. The Valdari who enslaved your world are dead. You are free. Humanity stands with all species who choose freedom over tyranny. The response from the planet's surface was immediate and overwhelming. Resistance fighters who had hidden in caves for 5 years emerged to celebrate their liberation. The Valdari garrison that had seemed so powerful was nothing but burning wreckage in orbit. Similar scenes played out across 6 different worlds as human strike teams eliminated Valdari garrisons with surgical precision. The aliens' rigid military doctrine, designed for intimidating helpless civilians, proved useless against human tactics that emphasized speed, stealth, and overwhelming firepower at the point of attack. But the real message came when the human fleet reached the Valdari border world of Proxima Centauri b, a heavily fortified system that served as a major military base for the alien empire. The space around the planet bristled with defensive stations and patrol ships. It was the kind of stronghold that had never been successfully attacked in centuries of Valdari expansion. The alien commanders stationed there considered their position impregnable. They were wrong. The human assault fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their ships gleaming with the deadly beauty of weapons designed by a species that had learned to turn alien technology into something far more dangerous. The Valdari defenders, confident in their superior numbers and firepower, moved to intercept what they assumed was a desperate attack by primitive humans. The battle was over in 4 hours. Human ships, smaller and faster than their alien counterparts, danced through the Valdari formations like predators among prey. Every human captain had studied alien tactics for months, learning to anticipate and counter every standard Valdari maneuver. When the last defensive station fell silent, Admiral Kane's voice echoed across all Valdari communication frequencies throughout the system. This is Admiral Kane of the human fleet. You came to our world to exterminate us because you thought we were weak and helpless. You were wrong. We are not the primitive species you believed us to be. We are survivors who have fought for 10,000 years to reach the stars, and we will not be pushed back into the darkness. Kane paused, letting his words sink in to every Valdari listener. Every world you have conquered will be freed. Every species you have enslaved will know that. The mighty Valdari can be defeated. Your empire was built on fear and intimidation, but today that fear dies. Any species that threatens human existence will learn what we learned long ago on our own world. That freedom is worth any price, and that some species would rather die fighting than live as slaves. The message was broadcast throughout Valdari, space, carrying with it footage of the destroyed fleet and liberated worlds. For the first time in centuries, the conquered populations of the